Hey guys, welcome to another episode of East Coast Rams podcast. I am your co-host Ashton here with my awesome co-host Zach. Happy Victory Friday, Zach. How are you doing? How are you feeling? We basically had the same game twice, second week in a row, but both ended in victories. How are you feeling?
Oh man, I'm so pumped up. This adrenaline is still with me even through the night, and I got well rested. I don't know. I just have so much energy. I'm so pumped. I'm so excited for this team. I feel like this is the team that we knew. I mean, we really I felt like knew going into this season that this team was special. We knew that they were going to have the roller coaster moments, but I think in the last 2 weeks, this is the team that we knew they could be. And I'm just so excited for this potential of what these last two games mean and our potential to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think both me and you are kind of like on the same side of being like, we see the flashes, we see the potential, especially on offense. We're like, if they can just get the execution and some of the concentration issues, kind of put together all that stuff, we saw where they could be a top 10 offense. We kept on saying that and we kept on seeing it, but they just couldn't put it together. They were facing a lot of great teams, a lot of challenges, a lot of growth needed to happen. And we're starting to see kind of in the last 6, 7 games the fruition of that potential. And they started believing in themselves more. And even Stafford said it in kind of his victory speech. We need to start putting teams away. We need to start slamming that door closed. In the last 3 or 4 games, we haven't been able to do that as much as we needed to, and we'll kind of go into the more negative parts of the game later on, but just it's a lot of fun watching this team. The way they do offense, the way they game plan, the way they are trying a lot of different stuff, and it is a roller coaster. Not great for I know my heart, and definitely not great for everyone else's heart. But it's making the games interesting, and hopefully they can make a postseason run because of it.
Yeah, there's a couple miscues on why the Rams didn't close out this game as fully, and we'll talk about that later. But like, there wasn't a whole lot of negatives to this game. There were some frustration points and things like that, but those were very far and few between compared to the results that offense and that really that defense played for the first half, and even most of the second half. But
Mm.
this Rams team was just it was so good. The offense played so well. And we knew that the offense was going to carry this team. If this team was going to be a playoff team, the defense was young and, it was going to be a struggle because all we really had was Ernest Jones and Aaron Donald. It was unproven talent that we had, you know, and the defense just every week since the beginning of the season has pretty much played really well, holding good teams to, under 25 points with the exception of a couple, and those teams are also leading, the NFC on those exemptions. But I'm so proud of this team. I'm really glad. I got so much good things to say that I don't want to let out all right this second. But yeah, I'm so happy and I'm so glad we're going to get to break down this game.
Yeah. Let's kind of go over the news real quickly. So Sebastian Joseph Day just got released, waived by the Chargers. That's not It's shocking they would do it now, but they have had a very disappointing season. That's a very loaded roster. They ended up firing Brandon Staley. Just a lot of underwhelming achievement by them. Herbert getting hurt doesn't really help. So they release Sebastian Joseph Day. Zach, do you think that is someone in the waiver wire the Rams should target? They are 13th, I believe, before Thursday's game, and I think that's going to process after this next week. So we will probably be 18th, 19th, depending on kind of what goes on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think this definitely can help boost that offense or that defensive front that we have. Not saying it's bad, but it's still young and it's still fresh and new. And so, really, we need somebody else to kind of help keep bringing the pressure. Aaron Donald cannot be the only person on that team who continues to be double and triple teamed, and then they still don't get anything
Mm,
out of that. And so, having someone like Sebastian Joseph Day on the team could really help that, especially if the Rams are really want to do that playoff push. I mean, you mentioned in Stafford's his victory speech, after the game, like this season is not done. This season has 2 games left. If they get to the playoffs, they're not content on one game. It doesn't sound like to me. It sounds like they want to make a push with whatever they got, and they know it. They know that they have it in them. They know they have some stuff to clean up, and I think adding someone like Joseph, Sebastian Joseph Day would be a boost. The question is, can the Rams afford it? Depending on how all that situation goes, we're at that point.
yeah. We'll kind of see how that works it way itself. So the playoff picture right now, the Rams have the 6th seed. This is, of course, we're filming before Sunday, so we don't have the full picture of how everything goes. I do believe the Rams have a potential of clinching the playoff spot, but like every other team they need, or every other team in the picture has to lose, and that's just not realistic. So I don't think the Rams can clinch a playoff spot realistically until next week. But there are some teams matchups that you can kind of root against going into this next weekend. Zach, right now we're playing the Lions at you know at their place. How are you feeling about that potential matchup? And do you want
Yeah.
that one? Would you prefer playing either the Cowboys or the Eagles in the 2 seed?
All good points. So as far as the playoff picture, I don't think that we can actually. I think we will still be fine, and we will still have a playoff spot currently, even if all the teams that are in the hunt win the game. If Seattle wins, we have the tiebreaker for that. The Saints obviously lost, so they're down a notch. Even if the Falcons and the Packers all win their game, we still are 1 game ahead of them. So realistically, we are safe. The Rams still control their own future as far as getting into the playoffs. They have to beat the Giants, and then we'll see how the 49ers game shakes out, if that's a must win or not. But as far as the playoff potential and who would I want the Rams to play? I think we talked about this a little bit on the last pod, but it's good between the Lions and probably the Eagles. The Eagles haven't looked the greatest over the last couple weeks, but again, when you're thinking about playing at home, playing at somebody else's home, you want to take that into consideration too. The Cowboys seem like they're actually a good team. Now they tend to choke in the playoffs, so we'll see how that goes. But I think the Lions probably would be the best option for the Rams. I think that gives them a different advantage. I do think it's going to be loud. I think it's going to be filled with Detroit fans. I mean, this would be their first playoff home game in 30 years. So it's something that means a lot to them. But it also means a lot to Stafford going back to home. It's the cool narrative that everyone seems to like. There's going to be a lot to ride on this, if that's the case. So I think I'd probably pick the Lions, but it's also going to be kind of heart clenching at the same time. I mean, I'm a Jared Goff fan. I do like the Lions as far as their team, the character they have behind it, their coaching staff, things like that. They have a good solid crew. And it would just be disappointing that both of my NFC favorite, probably my top 2 NFC teams, obviously Rams being number 1, would face off in the first round of the playoffs. Would be kind of heartbreaking a little bit.
Yeah, especially if the Rams won that game, that it would be heartbreaking because I like Detroit fans. I thought for the most part Detroit fans did a fantastic job of rooting for Stafford, not being bitter about that decision, showing him a lot of respect, a lot of love. Him coming in town and knocking them out of the playoffs first round in the last 30 years they've hosted a playoff game, that would be a bitter pill to swallow. Uh, it would be a great game, and just looking forward to win or lose. I think this team has definitely looked like they're earning their way, and they've performed and overshot expectations, overshot my expectations. They're probably on the trajectory around what you thought they would be. So hopefully they can surprise us more in the playoffs and surprise someone at home, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. You want to break down this game?
Let's go ahead. I'm so excited. I'm ready to just like start bouncing, jumping up and down. Like this game was fun. It was fun to watch. Got a little sketchy there at like 2 points of the game, but for the most part, this was a fun game to watch. So let's break it down.
Yeah. So first off, the Rams defer, give the ball away. They end up going 3 and out. I believe 3 and out. They might have got one first down. Can't remember that first drive much. But then the Rams get the ball and kind of move all the way down to the red zone.
They
And
actually
Zach,
had they actually had 8 plays. They actually moved it down
a
into the
place
red zone, and they
got sacked,
stopped.
right?
Yeah, so they went for it on 4th and 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's hard to keep track of all the fourth downs they went for it on because they did it a
Oh,
lot.
oh yes, they punted it away in the red zone. Apparently, they also don't have a good kicker, so they weren't comfortable with the about 50-yard kick. So yeah, they moved the ball down, and the Rams held them.
Join the club, New Orleans, of kicker struggle. We'll talk about that a little bit later because some of that happened this game too. So the Rams end up their first drive going all the way down the field. They ran it on the first drive in the red zone. Congrats, McVay. Thank you for doing that. It didn't really work as well as people wanted it to, at least that drive, but he still did it. And they end up getting stopped in the red zone. Zach, issue this game. A lot of stops in the red zone by a good Saints defense, an underrated Saints defense. Let's just say that. But the execution there isn't really doing a lot on the offensive side, and they had to go for it on fourth. I'm kind of interested, Zach, to see what you think about the Rams going forward on fourth and throwing a TD to Puka.
No, I 4th and 2 in the red zone. Obviously, they were on the 2-yard line. That's a bold move. I mean, obviously, it's a chip shot for. I mean, really, it's a chip shot for Haversick, whether you like him or not. He's been fine at the short range ones. We'll talk about him more here in just a bit. But I really thought that they should have probably gone for it. I'm surprised they threw it. Again, not using the run game so close to the end zone. It just seems crazy, but I'm glad they went
got
for it.
stuffed. What, 2 runs before that? I think they ran on first down, they ran on second down, and then I believe tried to throw it on third down.
Yeah, so it was 1st and goal at the 5. They got 2 yards. They ran it again on second down. They got a yard, so they got 3 yards out of their 2, and then they decided to throw, and that was the incomplete pass to Cup. I believe right at the goal line.
Oh, he dropped a TD. So let's be fair to the play calling there. Cup catches that TD historically 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I
I
mean
think
all
they
the
said that on
catches,
the broadcast.
all the
That was a
catches
good
he did
throw.
in the end. Yeah, all the catches he did in the end zone that he missed. Those were all Cup catches normally. He had an off game tonight. It showed in everything that happened. He was clutch in some spots that we needed him to be, and he's still a tough player. But yeah, those drops in the end zone, and kind of like you mentioned, they kind of struggled in that red zone area most of the day. They just could not seem to get anything really going. There was that pass interference play too that also allowed them to continue that drive in the red zone. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with Sean McVay going for the 4th and 2. It's 2 yards. Kind of weird that they went for a pass play, but that's fine. It's the other times where they decided to, it was 4th and 2, and they decided to try for a field goal or things like that. Or they punted it away. Like, that's where I was frustrated, that they didn't try to go for it. All of those times, the defense was playing really well. They weren't allowing to drive the ball down the field, and even if they were still keeping it, not in the end zone. So for them not to go for 4th and 2 on all those other ones, I'm more shocked at that than I was with this one.
I'm guessing something had to be coming off from the tape about how the Saints play when they're down versus when they're up or tied. Because the Rams themselves sometimes have issues rushing stuff along whenever they are down. So, like, it was probably a priority to score a TD on that first drive to kind of put them in different situations for the most part. I don't know. I thought it was kind of weird they went for it, personally. But I'm happy they did it. They had a good play call. Uh, yeah, just struggling when we should have been up 27-7 at half. We should have been blowing out the Saints. Their defense is good. They made some good quality plays, but their offense was not in the game, especially for the first 3 quarters, outside of one broken play, which I don't know, guys. I've been saying there's been an issue with the safeties. I've been saying that for weeks. Issues with them rotating and stuff, and people just wanted to blame DK, and now almost every other cornerback had a TD caught on them this
Okay,
game.
so I do. It's funny you brought up DK because he did not play other than 10 snaps. So they
Yep.
clearly saw that he was a problem, and they did counteract that, and they decided to bench him. And Kobe Durant actually had a great game. He was the one who took over that spot. But they did pick on Witherspoon. Witherspoon did, he was picked on, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Now, as you mentioned, in that touchdown, that long touchdown that was on Witherspoon, yes, it was Fuller who did decide to stay close to Olave instead of going back and help support that. So there was that kind of misplay, and that kind of dinked Witherspoon a little bit more.
We
But at
don't know
this,
the zones on that play, to be fair. So it's hard to tell where Fuller is supposed to go and where I believe Fuller was supposed to drop back, but we don't know that for sure.
sure, but given the circumstances and everything, he was probably the player, like you said, who was supposed to go back. But again, we don't know that for sure. But they did have some plays there, but again, the Rams played well. Their backs played well. Their safeties played decent as well. I don't know. They did get those 2 big plays, but I don't want to fault that all on them. Witherspoon was the target. He had the worst game, I think, this season for himself, and maybe that was because DK wasn't on the field, and so they couldn't pick on him. But it is what it is.
I mean, I thought Durant was getting Olave was tearing Durant up. Especially on short, medium routes. He had a good third quarter, but the rest of the game, I thought when Carr would target Olave, I thought Durant was just not able to completely be there. He made the tackle after the catch, which he's really good at, but he struggled in coverage. And I won't blame him for the TD he gave up in the 4th quarter, because that was offensive pass interference. That third TD, that was very clearly, that should have been flagged. So I mean, it is what it is. A coverage bust by the safety, OPI that should have been called. It's the second TD was good. So
yeah, but let's talk about some of the positives. I mean, the Rams offense of this, they've won the last 5 of the last 6 games since they've been back from the bye. They are now 5-1. This team is just bringing out all the stops, especially on the offensive side. The defensive side, they've let a couple things slip up more towards the end of the game, which is a problem, and they need to clean it up. But realistically, they played really well. But I want to go on the kind of talking about some of the big positives. Puka freaking Nacua. If this, I get the talks about CJ Stroud and like he's going to be the offensive player of the year. Right now, he didn't play last game, and it's not looking like he might play this game or this upcoming game. Puka Nacua has played every game. He has gone out. We thought he was done for the season at one point. Comes back in the second half of the game, plays lights out, plays like he's as a blocker, just like he would if he wasn't somewhat injured. Last night he had 164 yards. That man, every game he has a catch that's unbelievable. It surpasses the week prior's unbelievable catch. This man deserves Offensive Rookie of the Year award, no doubt. Going into last game, he was supposed to he needed 311 yards to beat the rookie yard record. All right. That means about 304 yards per game over the next 3 games. That's a lot to put on any receiver. He got 164 last night. Now it drops him down to only needing about 74 the next 2 games. It's just unbelievable player that he is. Plus, he had the touchdown. Don't want to take away that touchdown from him either. And obviously, as you can see, fully supporting the Nacua. Again, as a 5th rounder playing this well, if that's being a 5th rounder and competing for most yards as a receiver and as a rookie receiver and most receptions as a rookie receiver doesn't get you into, really being that number 1 of offensive player of the year. CJ Stroud is a number 1 pick. He should be playing well. This is a 5th round pick playing historical levels.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he's kind of making a case for why he should be considered offensive player of the year, just in general. I think it's going to be hard to beat CMC just because they'll probably end up giving, if I'm guessing, they'll probably give Purdy MVP, CMC offensive player in the year, and just settle for giving Puka offensive rookie. And probably only because CJ Stroud got hurt. Let's be honest. But he's only, I think, 145 or something around that area, beating the rookie receiving record. And he could do that in 1 game. So we'll see. Giants aren't really known for a top quality defense this year. So it's so impressive what he's been doing, how he route runs, how physical he is, just everything about him is just kind of like pinch yourself. It's historically great. And it's exactly what the doctor ordered for this Rams offense, where we were kind of worried about the wide receiving core going into this year. I wanted them draft high in the wide receivers last year. They didn't need to. They got a round 1 wide receiver in the 5th round, so good on Les Snead hitting it out of the park, and just Puka's amazing. And let's just also kind of pivot to the fact that, Zach, the way this offense is using motion, especially with tight ends, it's poetry. It just looks so nice. And you kind of watch the Saints static offense, this old fashioned, just struggling to move the ball down the field against, let's say, an average defense like the Rams. Man, you got to be appreciative of McVay and the way he is handled this year and this personnel. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, the Saints offense is also different just because of how they play their offense. Obviously, they bring Hill in as kind of this receiver passer kind of threat. Didn't really work for the Saints last night. Lots of things, but like you said, the motions that they're doing, the offensive line is playing lights out. They're doing really well. They're keeping Stafford clean. They're keeping the pressure. They're pushing the ball. They're pushing the defenders forward so that Kyren can find the holes and be as explosive as he is. So let's talk about Kyren Williams. I mean, between him and Puka and then Stafford, really, those three are playing the best games that they've played in the last several weeks. And, you know, we finally got a running back who has rushed over 1,000 yards since 2018 Todd Gurley. Um, and, yes, last week he had 2 fumbles. He admits it. It's the 2 fumbles he's had in his career so far as a Ram. And he knew what he had to do, but his team had his back. He came out here, played lights out, 22 carries for 104 yards, got that touchdown, which he was he broke through so many holes that he rushed that not just into the end zone, but all the way to his mom. So that's the kind of guy he is. He's fun to watch. You got to see him he was a little dancing out there when they got the holding call or the neutral infraction called at the end of the game, which kind of sealed the deal for the Saints. So it was it's just beautiful. It's beautiful to watch Kyren. It's beautiful to watch his spirit and the way that he's able just to, even though, he had those 2 fumbles last week, he can bounce back from those things. And I think that was the difference than what we've had previously, is that when you make a mistake, you need to own it and you need to fix it. And that's what Kyren Williams can do. And I think that was the problem that Sean McVay had with Cam Akers, was that he had potential, but it just seemed like he couldn't get past the mistakes. And Kyren Williams is able to be that guy.
Yeah. Kyren's definitely putting in a lot of work, especially being a receiver and being a blocker, which I think kind of helps elevate his game in McVay's eyes. And then what he can do in the open field, it's just fantastic. I was wrong about him. And I think we like to pride ourselves on like self-scouting, being like realizing when we have bad takes or like stuff isn't the way we think it will go. That was one thing I was definitely wrong about. Kyren has proved me wrong. He has been a fantastic player. I still think we need depth behind them. Freeman isn't bad, but I feel like if Kyren goes down, this offense drops so low. It gives you appreciation for 2021.
Sure,
The
yeah.
way they ran that offense without a top level running back. But I don't know if that can be replicated. And I feel like Kyren is the secret sauce that makes this whole engine go. And when he's on the field, man, everyone else around him is just a lot better, and the offense is fluid.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if he didn't miss those 4 weeks, I mean, he could potentially be in that CMC kind of talk as far as the production that he's given this week. Obviously, we had some issues again, like against the Bengals and things like that, where it felt like either he had an off night or the Rams just their coaching was off as far as calling those run plays. But other than 1 or 2 games early in the season, I mean, he's been playing lights out each and every week. But then he had his injury, and that kind of pushed him back. And as far as the stats go for running backs. As kind of as you mentioned, without him, it was kind of lackluster. But let's also remember that he also lost his kind of co-part at the exact same time, which is Ronnie Rivers, which he came back last night and it played well. I mean, obviously this was the Kyren Williams show, and that's what they were going to do. But Ronnie Rivers came and he had a admiral time he had 6 carries, 20 yards, 3.3, but really he was used to kind of give Kyren Williams a break and kind of playing that pass protection kind of thing. And, there were a couple times where Ronnie Rivers he may not have stopped the defender completely, but he gave Stafford enough time to get that ball out and made some beautiful plays. I mean, I remember, I don't know which defender it was on the Saints team, but it was, I think one of their linebackers just drilled right up down the middle of through the offensive line. No one touched him. And Ronnie Rivers just literally just like bucked him to give Stafford enough time to throw the ball to make the catch. He still got to Stafford, but he gave them that enough time he needed to make the throw and to get that to continue to play.
Stafford this game. Let's talk about him a little bit.
Yes.
I mean, you still got it, Zach. He's old. he's an old man moving back in. Like he's not
Oh, this
old,
guy's
but
elite. I mean,
yeah,
I
he's
mean,
top notch. The little sidearm straight. Oh my gosh, I believe that was the Marcus Robinson.
oh,
Oh,
yeah,
but
beautiful.
just oh,
I mean, this guy, he when he extends plays, he extends plays. I mean, this guy's a threat. The longer you give him time to throw the ball, the better he's going to be. I mean, he just puts it in the right spots. I mean, there's again, he just does these plays where you think he's just throwing it away because there's no one around, but he knows his receiver's going to get there and catch the ball. I mean, that happened multiple times this game. Beautiful. Stafford
yeah.
is beautiful.
So Stafford, in reality, he only had 2 TDs on the stat sheet, but he threw 5 TDs that game. 5. Cup dropped 2 of them, and then, he threw 4, and he missed Puka, which it kills me. He made all these hard throws to Cup, and like perfect placement, every like where you could really want it as a wide receiver. And then Puka's wide open, and I think pressure probably influenced the throw a little bit, and he just missed Puka wide open.
Yeah, I can't remember. I really
But
wanted to go
great.
back and look at that play because I almost wanted to think that there was maybe a holding call against on, you know, on Puka, like he got held back a little bit. I would have to go back and double check, but
Well, they talked about how he pushed off on top of the route. So in theory, some more ticky tack refs would have called
sure.
a fat penalty on Puka for
On
pushing
Puka.
off. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was after that, like when they were down the field and he was breaking off, he got pulled back a little bit, but anyways,
It
uh
wasn't. It was kind of like a slight. It wasn't exactly like the TD that the Saints got, where like he literally pushed the defender into the ground.
yeah.
So
Um, but yeah, like you said, Matthew Stafford playing lights out.
fantastic.
I mean, 24 for 34, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, this guy over since week 11, really. I mean, this guy's thrown for 1,500 plus yards, 15 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. I mean, this is what you want as your quarterback. Especially when it matters most. And this is when it matters most. And let's remember, like, before that, that's really when he was having his thumb injury. And,
Yeah.
when you are not at your best, you cannot make your best throws. And, I think he only really had that one kind of slip up where they were in the red zone, and they had to settle for the field goal because he wanted to not throw the ball, but it slipped out of his hands and it went forward.
Could have been a lot
So
worse.
it could have been a lot worse. He didn't want to throw it. He clearly knew that it was going to either be intercepted or blocked, and that wasn't the right throw to do. But when he tried to, you know, he couldn't pull it back. He went for, and we were just glad that it was a forward throw, and there was someone in the area that they could point that towards.
I mean, let's be honest. He's right now the best looking QB in the NFC.
People will
Like
argue with you. People will argue with you because Purdy is actually looking fine. Like he's looking well.
he
Like
has a
people,
top 5 defense. I do not like comparing Purdy and Stafford when he has a top 5 defense and he's playing with the lead the entire game.
sure, but you got to give him credit. I mean, this guy,
Against look,
I don't like the 49ers. I'm against them, but like Purdy he is doing what he needs to do. And whether you want to call him a game manager or what, that's whatever.
he
He's winning
makes
the
the wide
games.
open throws. So I'll give him credit. That's better than 95% of people on earth can do, right? Like better than most QBs even in like National Football League. But let's be honest, he's constantly playing with the lead. He has a top 5 O line. He has a top 5 running back. He has a top 5 paid tight end. Like he has so many things where if you stick Stafford on that team, I guarantee you they're scoring more points. That's just my personal opinion. People may disagree with that. I I just think Purdy is he has a lot of benefits and he's playing good with them. Don't get me wrong. A lot of he's playing better than Jimmy G was. I'll give him that credit. But let's see when they start facing better competition. And
Yeah.
they played the Eagles, let's say after they started their downward trajectory. I'll give them credit for beating the Cowboys when the Cowboys were hot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't like the people just like blindly praising Purdy when he has
Yeah, but
a
I mean, I
lot of
think you have
games.
to give him credit. I mean, you have to give him the credit that it's due. I mean, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback right now in this league, and that's just, yes, it can be because of its defense, but that could be anybody's team. I mean, look out. I mean, Stafford, he's been elite pretty much his whole career, but he hasn't been on a good team. So I don't know. I'm giving him
And
credit. I'm
he
not
never
saying
got MVP talk
yeah,
like
I'm not
this.
saying that Brock Purdy is better than Stafford. Not saying that at all. I'm just saying that we can't knock Purdy for playing really really well football.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
my point is just Stafford is the best playing the best ball right now in the NFC, QB wise.
yeah, I would not disagree with you. But Stafford, he only threw to 4 receivers last night. I think that might be the first time this season that's happened. Higbee, Puka, um, Robinson, and
Yep.
Higbee. Um,
300 yards on a defense that hasn't done that, I think, in 40 games.
yeah, I mean it's crazy. I mean I don't know. I mean, obviously Robinson is now, and we're gonna go now right into Robinson. Robinson
Yeah. Yeah.
has secured that wide receiver 3 spot. I mean, I love Tutu Atwell. He had some really great flashes in the first, quarter of the season. But Robinson is, since Tutu went out for that concussion, really, he is securing that spot, and he's not giving it up without a fight. I mean, he was second in the receiving yards. He had 84 himself. Like, he's been able, he caught that touchdown, which was well defended against, and still able to bring it in, and was
Great
able to get
catch.
the football in. And so, like, he's playing lights out, and I'm so excited. I'm just so excited for this team. This offense is playing at the level that I thought they should have been playing all season long.
Mhm.
And now we just need to make sure that we continue to close these games out.
Yeah, I think he's playing himself out of the Rams. I don't know. We'll see. I feel like
He doesn't want to lose his record of being in the playoffs every year he's been on a team.
well, I mean, like next year, because I believe he only signed for a year. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't imagine that like he's gonna get offers of like 8 to 10 mil the way he's playing. Like he's playing like a really good wide receiver number 2, and some teams could use that right now. So like Zach, do you think he is someone the Rams should kind of prioritize free agent wise?
I would say probably not. I think obviously our biggest thing is Kevin Dotson. He's the number one probably player that we need to focus on going into this offseason.
Yeah,
When you have someone still like Puka Nacua, and you still have Cooper Cup, who can only get healthier, I think you still have a dynamite duo. And when you go to a wide receiver 3, you could still look at Tutu. You could still look at other players across the league and bring it as a free agent. But even though I love D-Rob, and he's the Robinson we needed last year, who we didn't have. I
yeah,
kind of made that funny joke, like we had A-Rob before, and now we have D-Rob, but he's more playing like A Robinson than a D. If you grade them A and D, things like that. So I would give our D Robinson this year an A, and I would give our last year A Robinson a D. Is how I would go with that. That's a hot take. Hot take that.
I mean, the results speak for themselves. But so like DeMarcus, we'll see how the team kind of looks at it. But I feel like they definitely value wide receiver depth, especially what happened last year with the wide receiver injuries. So if they want to re-sign him, I'm up and I'm game for it. Him and Akilo, and yeah, just good stuff by them. Let's talk about defense. Uh, man, Kobe Turner, great game, fantastic game. You could tell they focused on limiting Kamara, and they did that. Kamara, I have him in fantasy. He was kind of a dud, so I'm happy about that. Like he's one of the most dynamic players the Saints have, and he was very silent the entire night.
Yeah, I think everyone was super afraid of this this Saints team that this could be a Rams, kind of defeater. But I mean, if you look at the last 2 games they placed Carolina and the Giants, and not to, kind of poo-poo on those teams, but they're not the most
They're
dynamic.
bad.
They're not the best teams in the league right now. We have to face the Giants next week, so I'm not going to say too many bad things about the Giants because I don't want karma. But yeah, I just that team did not play like they were a 7-7. Maybe they did play like they were in 7-17, but not someone who needs to get into the playoffs. And honestly, the Saints still have a playoff shot. I mean, not maybe through the wild card slot, but still trying to win out their division. I mean, right now they're with the Tampa Bay, and the Falcons are right
tank
behind
division.
them. I mean, it is. We may not see a winning. They may not have a winning record getting to the playoffs.
Good luck to whoever wins that division and has to face the Cowboys or Eagles. Good luck.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be almost like having a first round bye.
Yeah.
So the defense played, like I said, the defense played well. Obviously, Aaron Donald made his mark because he's constantly getting double teamed. Jordan Fuller, even though we we probably dissed him maybe a little bit early on with that kind of maybe potential blown coverage. Not 100% sure by that. But he was able to get that interception, which was basically at that point should have sealed the deal. And we'll talk about special teams here in just a second, but that'll be the last thing we discuss. But outside of that, I think the Rams played pretty well. Like you said, they stopped the run. Really in the second half, they kept Olave to pretty much nothing. And
Jawan Johnson started to pop off a little, but
it is. But the defense got put into a bad spot because really of the special teams. And so let's jump into special teams real quick, unless you want to add anything to the defense.
Do we have to talk about special teams?
We're gonna do a 2-minute recap. Basically, Haversick, don't give him anything above 40 yards. It just seems like that's not going to happen. He missed a 47 when it was 4th and 2. And that's one of the instances where I didn't even think that they were going to bring him out. Why not? Your defense has been playing so well right now. Why even do that to yourselves? But they did. Missed the 47.
You're going to have to show confidence in your kicker. That's why. Like, if you don't kick there, like, you're telling him, like, we have no confidence in you. And so why do you even have him on the roster?
Well, you have him for the roster for anything under 40. And that, I think moving forward, we know now, it doesn't seem like this. Now, let's go. So real quick, Sean McVay is not changing their kicker. He said that today. Today is Friday. They said it this morning. They are not changing their kicker. He blames it more on the snap and the snap holder because we do have a snap holder. And so
I'm sure that's why he was shaky in warm-ups.
Potential, yeah. But he is now 2 for 6 from the range of 40 to 49. But like I said, Sean McVay has no plans on changing the kicker situation right now. I think it's probably too late in the year to really do anything. Be interested to know why they didn't keep Crosby on. Maybe it was the cost. Maybe he wasn't performing well. No one got to see.
He lost the battle to Haversick, which, to be fair, in the against the Ravens, like, he played good, and he did play good, but that's one game out of his 4 or 5.
And it's crazy. When you watch this game, like I watched every one of his kicks. His extra points were right down the money. Anything under 40, they were right square in it. I just don't know what the extra 10 yards is doing to throw him off. And could it be a snapping problem? It could be. Could it be the way that it's being held? Maybe. But they got to clean it up. They got to fix something if they want to be a playoff team, because they had points off the table because of this. And when you have that momentum of not kicking the field goal in, that gives the other team a momentum, and that's when they really started to kind of bring the heat. Is after that missed field goal.
Did you have faith in him to hit that field goal take us from 27-30? Because I didn't think he was going to make that.
No, I did. I was under that 40. I do wish they would have gone for it, because I believe, I'm going to look it up real quick, but I thought that was another 4th and short
It was 4th and
situation
short.
again. And
Yeah.
yes, is another 4th and 2. How many 4th and 2s did we have? A lot. And yeah, 4th and 2 at the 13.
So, also, like, quick thing about defense, good work on all the 4th downs. I know we touched on the 4th downs a little bit, but fantastic work in those stops. Do you want to talk about the block punt?
Yes, let's talk about the blocked punt. So when we get to that, that's really where things went sideways for the Rams, is really that block punt, because I believe the score was 14-14 or 14-30 at that
We were
point.
up 14. Yeah, we were up 14.
And so the block punt happens, and the Rams basically, now the defense has to battle on short terms. I mean, they get this thing all the way down. They take 6 minutes off the clock. They did score a touchdown, but they did get 6 minutes off the clock. Rams get the ball back. They can't do anything, and so they punt the ball away. Gets blocked, and now the defense has to get back on the field. And at our 40-yard line, they only had 40 yards to go, and got the touchdown, 2-point conversion, and then had to go there. So, and then made it an 8-point game that then they had to do another, onside kick, and luckily Puka caught that one.
I guess Blackburn hates my doctor. He just hates my doctor. Wants my doctor to deal with my high blood pressure.
And Ethan Evans Ethan Evans is a good punter. It's just
yes,
and it was. And obviously it was Davis, the tight end, who was kind of covering that side where they kind of blown through, and
they overloaded that side, and that should have been on the special teams coordinator. I think we need a change at special teams coordinator. It is one of the worst units in the league at special teams. And for a team that literally drafts some of its players for being special team aces, our special teams functionality and performance is atrocious. You, especially given the fact that we focus on drafting people just to play special teams. That it's
I think outside of, Ethan, our punter Ethan Evans, I think he's a good punter, and I think that Trammell has been good as a punt returner. I'm going to take out the 2 time. He's fine. It's better than having Cooper Kupp play that position every time. So I'm fine with that. The only time he dropped the ball, it was during that rainy Ravens game. I'm going to bypass that. Obviously, you have Ben Skoranek, who pretty much only plays special teams, and so he's fine. But other than that, like, we got to get our kicking game situated. We got to figure that stuff out, and that needs to be fixed. But yeah, that gave me big heartburn at the end of the game, because again, this should have been really a 14-30 game. Ended up being way closer at the end. Not just because of the defense. Obviously, the defense had its mistakes, but really it was that special teams block that really put them into a bad spot.
Did he have 2 missed kicks or 1?
Haversick, he only had 1.
Yeah, one. Okay.
Yeah, he had 2. He had 2 good ones in the second quarter.
Again, if we had that extra field goal, like, we're not sweating at the end. But either way, it is what it is. We'll kind of see where they go on special teams.
Yeah. I'm super excited where this team's going. I think they're playing in the football that we need them to play, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see them play well on primetime football, so that all the eyes can see how good Puka Nacua is and Kyren Williams is, how elite Matthew Stafford is, how not to take our defense for granted. This team is a scary team, and as we said in the last podcast, no team should feel great facing them if they do end up playing in the playoffs. So super excited that we get to take the weekend kind of off, enjoy the holidays as we both celebrate Christmas. So I'm just super excited.
Yeah, Christmas came a little bit early for us. We got a nicely wrapped dub.
Oh, beautiful present.
Yes,
Beautiful present.
beautiful. Yeah, man. It'll be kind of interesting to see, like, if we go to playoffs and we lose because of special teams, especially after 2017. I feel like McVay is gonna pay a returner and a kicker like 20 mil, and he's like, I'm tired of losing playoff games
Yeah.
because of special teams.
I
Uh,
definitely think that they'll probably take a kicker in the first round, or not the first round. They'll take a punter. They'll take,
oh man,
sorry, not a hot take. Take
you
that hot
just
take
gave
out.
a bunch of people a heart attack.
Sorry, they are going to take a punter in the draft, the best punt or the best kicker in the draft.
Oh
If
man.
they lose because of special teams, but I think we're going to wrap this episode of the East Coast Rams podcast up. We could keep going forever and forever and ever. Ashton, anything else you want to say before we close this thing out?
We almost made our time. We try, guys. We try. We just love doing this so much.
There's so much fun stuff to talk about. We love talking about it. We could talk about it all day, but we do need to wrap this up. So we're going to wrap up this episode of the East Coast Rams podcast. Thank you for everyone who listens to the podcast each and every week. The community just keeps on growing. I think we hit one of the highest videos last week. I mean, this team is scary, and we're just so happy that we get to kind of discuss this with everybody. So feel free to like and subscribe to this video, like and subscribe to whichever podcast application you like, Spotify, Apple, we're on them all. Go to youtube.com/East Coast Rams. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, smash that notification bell, and leave us a comment. What were your thoughts about the Saints Rams game in Thursday Night Football? What do you think the next game against the Giants will be? We'll be back next week to talk about the Giants. Give you kind of that preview episode there as they face the Giants on New Year's Eve.
Spoiler alert, they're bad.
Not going to be a trap game at all. But Ashton, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, enjoy some time off. All of our fellow Rams fans who listen to the content, please enjoy time with your family. Even if you don't celebrate Christmas, make sure that you have a good break and just a good warm Sunday feeling like the Rams are still in the playoffs. I'm pretty sure nothing can happen this weekend that would push us out for at least until another week. So just keep a hold of that playoff hopes alive. And we will see you guys next week. And as always, whose house? Rams house.
Rams house.